Something is going to have to give soon, very, very soon.
But it's no good, that's quite clear, and on this level, that is not the standard.
Man United are back.
Here we go again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the past few weeks, months and years have been rather eventful over at Old Trafford, and not the good kind of eventful either. Somehow, what was once an absolute titan in the industry that is football has become a fully fledged meme. Manchester United have gone from good to bad to slightly better to bad again to alright to dreadful. And things are certainly still trending downwards. The media is outraged, United fans are getting closer and closer to the edge, rival fans are elated, and personally, I honestly feel nothing anymore. It's been 4 years! 4 years! How is McFred still the midfield pairing? Can someone explain this to me? Nope, I'm cool. In all seriousness, who's to blame for all of this? And how did we get to this point? These are both questions that are not as black and white as many may think they are. As with anything involving this club in recent years, it's complicated. From ownership to management to players, it's a lot. Today, we recount how we got to this point and lightly speculate over the future, grim as it may look. So, with that being said, what is happening at this shambles of a club? Yo, what is going on everyone? Hope you're doing well. I'm Tinashe and we gotta talk. I feel like I've had several years of my life shaven off thanks to this club in recent years, so this video was tough to write. To help with that, I'm sorry guys, but this video is sponsored. Alright guys, the new football season's well and truly underway, and that means a couple things. First of all, it means we got our weekends back. Second of all, it means Couch Critic season is also back. So how about you go ahead and put your football knowledge to the test with the sponsor of today's video, Spitch. Spitch is a daily fantasy football manager that allows you to take control of a team on each new match day. There are a wide range of competitions to choose from, like the Premier League and the Bundesliga. They've also just recently introduced a new season mode feature in the 22-23 season. In this game mode, managers select a new lineup each match day, and your best 5 match days throughout the season will count towards your final ranking. The app makes use of a vast array of in-game stats to track performances, and winners with the most points can even win real money. If all that sounds good to you, go ahead and download Spitch using the link in the description. And if you're so inclined after that, you can use the one below that to join my community, the Iconic League. Thanks again to Spitch for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to it. Okay, so before we really get into things, I want to take some time to point out just how bad things actually are right now at the time of making this video. United just lost by 4-0 against Brentford this past week. Unbelievable. This is the first time they've lost to Brentford in the top division, home or away, since the 1936-37 season. A shocking stat line, but also not that shocking. Because this was not the first or second or third time that Man United have lost after conceding 4 or more goals in the past 12 months. No, it is the 7th time. 7. And speaking of the last time United lost to Brentford in the league, the Bees did the double on them, also winning by 4 goals at home. And United were relegated that year.
Big man thing, yeah? It's not looking good, Brev.
Points-wise, last season was the worst season in Premier League history for Manchester United. 58 points, a goal difference of 0. This is a list of the top 10 spenders in world football between 2012 and 2022, ranked by cumulative transfer fees. As we can see, we have all the big boys here. Madrid, Barcelona, Man City, PSG, etc. and etc. Can anyone spot the odd one out? That's right. Apart from 2013, and we all know the reasons for that, over 1.5 billion euros later, and United are the only team to not win their domestic league in that time frame on this list. As a matter of fact, when you really think about it, they haven't actually even come close. Yes, twice they've finished in second, 2017-18 and 2020-21, but they trailed City, the eventual winners both times, by 19 and then 12 points, with the latter season being an off year for City, if we're being completely honest. And finally, the most apt reflection of the club's current fortunes. Manchester United are bottom of the table for the first time since August of 1992. I mean, listen, seeing as we're only a few games into the season, we can expect this to change, is what every Man United supporter is telling themselves. But It's a telling picture. So how did all of this happen? Well, it's a tale of twists and turns, but if we really want to go back and select where to begin with this one, a good place to start is probably 2003. This whole thing began when one man had to see another man about a horse. A bad joke, but it's true. Irishmen John Magnier and JP McManus had become the largest shareholders for the club in the early 2000s with a near 30% stake in it. They were also both reportedly good friends with Sir Alex Ferguson, even inviting him to become a part owner of one of their champion racehorses at the time, Rock of Gibraltar. Here's where the problem lies. The nature of Ferguson's supposed ownership of the horse was a hotly contested and miscommunicated arrangement, it seems. He was part owner of the horse. That is something that is almost unanimously reported. So he did receive a cut of his prize money. But Ferguson believed that that ownership entitled him to part ownership of the stud rights and fees, i.e. the right to a slice of the horse's breeding fees. Now, I'm not into horses, clearly, and I didn't know this before, but apparently this is where all the money is actually made when it comes to prize horses, not from them actually racing. Which makes sense, I guess. The more you know. It's estimated that the stud fees for the steed were in the region of £100 million. Upon hearing that, it's easy to understand why he would want the slice of the pie he believed he deserved. By 2003, lawyers got involved, the club board got involved, the media was having a field day. It got really ugly. Eventually, it was all discreetly settled out of court. But as for Manchester United, the working environment had understandably become a bit toxic. Something that led to Magnier and McManus selling their shares and leaving the club by 2005. So who did they end up selling to, you ask? Malcolm Glazer and his children, notably Joel and Avram. Glazer had been slowly buying up shares from about 2003, and by 2005, it was all his, a transaction that was met with severe protest and outrage immediately. Long story short, Manchester United had very impressively been a debt-free club since about 1931. The Americans purchased the club for about £790 million through a series of loans that were obtained by leveraging the club's assets, loading the club up with debt. This in turn led to interest repayments in the region of £60 million per year at one point. Now, I'm fairly certain these guys could have paid off the loans if they really wanted to, but instead, what they've been doing is using income generated by the club to do so, and have also been taking out large dividends quite routinely. Very large dividends. As of 2021, they have taken well over £1 billion out of Manchester United. Sure, considerable money has been spent on players, as I mentioned earlier, but at the same time, in large part, the majority of that money has come from broadcasting revenue, matchday sales, merchandising, and other commercial interests. It's not like they're winning prize money. Their sale and resale figures for players are not that up to par considering their expenditure. The stadium is falling apart and infested with rats, and significant investment is probably needed there. I mean, we can go on all day about the problems for hours at this point. And while all of this is happening and we're listing them, the Glazer family has essentially been sat in America doing God knows what instead of addressing some of these issues. Protests are a yearly phenomenon at this point. And before anyone makes any sort of comment, these protests have been ongoing well before United declined. So, knowing that all that is going on at the top, it shouldn't surprise anyone that the incompetence trickles down. 8th of May 2013. After almost 27 years in charge, having won 38 trophies, Sir Alex Ferguson left the building. Along with him, David Gill, the CEO of Manchester United, also stepped down. Two titans that made United into the club that it is today and played a humongous role in recruiting not only exceptional players, but also a die-hard, global and unrelenting fan base. United fans for a very long time would make fun of the likes of Chelsea for their never-ending manager roulette, Arsenal for their drop-off in quality amongst their own boardroom squabbles, Liverpool for not winning the league in decades, and City were the noisy neighbours. Everyone associated with Manchester United were more or less on the same page that Ferguson, Gill and their teams were more than anyone or anything else responsible for United's success, reaching the highest of highs while under Glazer ownership. But I don't think many were aware of just how true that really was. Ed Woodward, the accountant that advised the Glazers in their takeover, replaced David Gill as CEO. And United went on to achieve even more success as Woodward made sure every one of their transfer targets came through. And after that, the football was better than ever. As far as managers were concerned, David Moyes, another Scotsman, was brought in and endorsed by the great man himself for the 13-14 season. A shambolic season followed as United, with the very same team, went from first with an 11-point cushion in 2013 to 7th in their worst Premier League season ever. By some distance too. Although we should maybe cut David Moyes a little bit of slack here. The team he inherited, while decent, wasn't exactly the best United team in years gone by. It's not a stretch to say it greatly overperformed in the previous title-winning year. Van Persie in particular was just unreal that time around. And Ferguson really brought the best out of the likes of
Cleverly.
But be that as it may, the next season, the finger deservedly needed to be pointed at one man. And
I'm sorry to say again, it's Moyes.
And if anyone needs reminding of just how bad the drop-off in quality was, maybe one of the best examples of how toothless these lots were was the time they produced 81 crosses against 20th place Fulham and only just scraped a draw. It was grotesque. And the only first-team recruitment came in the form of a Juan Mata that was still good at that point, but that Chelsea were very oddly happy to let go of. And of course, he was accompanied by the panic buy of
Fellaini.
This season was a wild ride and a total shock to the system for everyone. It was basically Christmas for rival fans that had been tormented by Manchester United for decades. United fans were hurt, but I think the majority were understanding that this is just something that happens when you part ways with the greatest manager in English football history. Many were confident that this was just a blip and normal service would soon continue. Moyes was binned 9 months into his 6-year contract, and the next full-time manager was Louis van Gaal in 2014. Bundesliga winner, La Liga winner, Champions League winner, quote machine, and producer of timeless gifts. Maybe this is where United turned a corner. Spoiler alert, it was not. But credit where credit is due. He did bring Champions League football back with a 4th place finish, and it looked like a much needed rebuild was on the cards too. A promising Luke Shaw, Angel Di Maria, Ander Herrera, Daley Blind all came in. However, the football was maybe the most boring and non-progressive ball the club had ever seen. Van Gaal's stint ended with a group stage exit in the Champions League and a 5th place finish in his 2nd year. There was the joy of an FA Cup win that definitely lifted spirits and reignited their belief, but this was not enough to save LVG's job as he was binned mere hours after the win. 3 years post-Ferguson, and United weren't even looking like a shadow of what they used to be. The club needed a win, and they needed one quick. Next up was Jose Mourinho in 2016. They chose right. At the time, perhaps no other manager had the track record of winning big in the immediate term when entering a club like Mourinho did. Porto, Chelsea, the first time, Inter Milan, Real Madrid, he won something with all of them in his first year there. And he swiftly added Manchester United to that list too. A 6th place finish in the league, yes, but also a League Cup, a Europa League, and the mighty Community Shield. The transfers were also looking promising. They recalled Paul Pogba from the most expensive loan deal of all time. The Bundesliga Player of the Year, Henrik Mkhitaryan, and the Ligue 1 Player of the Year, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, also joined. Romelu Lukaku also came in the next year, and he was followed by what is very possibly Manchester United's worst transfer of all time. Oh no. Oh no. Not the piano. I don't want these memories back. The Mkhitaryan deal didn't work out too well, so he was swapped with Alexis Sanchez. Dude was apparently on a base salary of $350k with huge guaranteed bonuses, was injured for almost his entire 2-year stay, and then went off to Inter and won a Scudetto. Oh, and Lukaku, Matteo Darmian, and Ashley Young were also there too. Tough for United. But let me not get ahead of myself. Come the next year, United finished 2nd and it finally looked like progress was being made. Only problem was that all of that swiftly went away as the Mourinho cycle ran its course. After falling out with almost everyone, except Nemanja Matic, he was sacked halfway through his 3rd season. But let's hold on for a second. Yes, Mourinho has a record of falling out with clubs and players in 2 to 3 years on the job, and the media did a pretty good job of portraying him as a villain that was destabilizing everyone around him. But I mean, if we're being real, based on how Mourinho portrays himself in the media and how he conducts himself in presses and whatnot, I don't think he really cares, and realistically, they were probably doing what he wanted them to. But in this case, the club is so poorly run and unambitious that it makes you wonder just how much of a chance they actually gave him. Back then, every week you'd see stories of how Mourinho's wishes were denied by the club repeatedly, refusing to sign a centre-back and giving him Fred, who he didn't even want, and nobody else before the season began, is just one of those instances. You'd see stories of how he'd fallen out with certain squad members like Anthony Martial and Paul Pogba, both of whom turned out to not live up to their expectations at the club and kind of prove him right, essentially. Yes, the football wasn't so great. Along with the players, rightly so, he should take a lot of the blame, and he probably did need to go. But he showed in his very first year that he can get results with these players and the team. Perhaps the board should have listened to him a bit more than they did. At the same time, what do I know? I'm just a dude in his room talking to a camera. Anyway, at this point, United were yet again in a really tough spot. The squad was a mishmash of players who were brought in to fulfill the philosophies of 3 different managers, each suited to one of 3 different playstyles. They were all on crazy high pay packages in contrast to their abilities, and they were just about all underperforming. United were in 6th place halfway through the season when Mourinho was sacked, and 5 years post-Ferguson, they were back to square -1. At the time, spirits were low, but to the credit of the United board, they decided to pull on the heartstrings of the fans, and it worked. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was up next in December of 2018. At the time, I'd be surprised if there was even one Manchester United fan in the know that did not like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The man was red through and through. Based on pure goodwill and vibes alone, he was welcomed to the club with open arms by supporters, and the players welcomed him pretty well too. As if they were all collectively Dragon Ball Z characters, they got a boost in their power levels and began performing straight away. Take a look at this right here. This is Manchester United's form in the 18-19 season before Mourinho was booted out. This is their form following that. It's honestly unbelievable. But while this was a good thing, it was also more evidence that these players had thrown their previous manager under the bus, something that was suspected by a lot of people. And again, this was further evidence that these players can play when they want to. The only problem, for some unknown reason, is getting them to want to. Anyway, the next 2 seasons marked the most promising period in United's post-Ferguson era. Despite ridicule from all directions, Solskjaer was doing some really good work in stabilizing the club. Holes in the squad were being addressed, such as right back with Aaron Wan-Bissaka, centre back with Harry Maguire. Edinson Cavani on a free looked to be a good bolster to the attack too. 3rd and 2nd place finishes came in the 1920 and 2021 years, and it really did look like things were on the up heading into the 21-22 season. Optimism was already uncharacteristically high at Old Trafford, but what happened in the summer of 2021 made every United fan lose any semblance of sanity they had left. Jadon Sancho, Rafael Varane, and the return of the great one, Cristiano Ronaldo. Everything was coming together really nicely. Yeah, so that didn't go as planned. Despite the apparent positive signs, all the progress of the past 2 years was thrown out the window as United reached a new low. Individual mistakes, strange tactics, a lack of enthusiasm, nothing we're not used to. This season was a disaster. It started off quite promisingly with 4 wins and a draw in the first 5, but after that, everything tanked. Ronaldo did what he could to help save some face from some potentially embarrassing scorelines, but relying on the output of a 37-year-old, regardless of how great, is not a good look. 6th place, and statistically the worst season for Manchester United in Premier League history. Again, Scott McTominay and Fred had little to no control in any given game of significance. Pogba was absent on the field and only really showed up for 1 or 2 games all year. Harry Maguire does have good traits, and listen, he's not as bad as social media wants you to believe he is. But it's also really hard to argue in his favor when he constantly positions himself dreadfully against stronger, faster players and keeps making the same mistakes. Bruno Fernandes hit the ground running when he first came, but has dropped off by quite a bit in recent months. Rashford has been a shell of himself since early 2021, and the Euros definitely didn't help. Martial hasn't impressed since about 2020, a fact that led to a loan spell with Sevilla. He was injured for most of his time there. All the same, this loan spell was far from a success. Goalkeeper David De Gea was the Players' Player of the Year that season, for the 4th time since 2014. That should tell you a lot about what you need to know about this team. For some reason, most of the players just checked out at varying points of the year, sometimes all at the same time. I momentarily skipped over this, but Solskjaer was sacked midway through the season. In the interim, before finding a new manager, German Rolf Rangnick was brought in on a 6-month deal. Thereafter, he would serve in a 2-year consultancy role to United and the eventual full-time manager. Despite the general mayhem at the club, this was an interesting development. If you didn't know, Rangnick has a bit of a reputation for helping correct the path of clubs in need of direction. The highest profile of which being RB Leipzig, where he played a part in the development, recruiting, and refining of their overall philosophy. He'd been known to be a strong personality, but he is widely regarded as the real deal. Basically, he knows what's up when it comes to rebuilds, which is exactly why he only ended up staying 6 months before hightailing it right out of England. Peak United. To be fair, he was apparently dismissed in part at the request of the new manager. But that doesn't change the facts all too much, does it? And as for the present as well as the future, well, this takes us through to the present day. All of what I've just mentioned and that we've witnessed begs the question, do these guys know what they're doing? Because this whole thing is just for our entertainment and it's a great lifelong pastime to embrace, I think we all tend to forget that football clubs are businesses at the end of the day. Manchester United is one of the most successful companies in the history of world football and earned that through shrewd business decisions and the luxury of having a few savants in key positions. Any company a fraction of the size of Manchester United will undoubtedly have an overarching vision and philosophy when it comes to how to optimize their main service offering or product. Merchandising, commercial revenue, and other off-field business is still booming, so I'd imagine there are still a lot of smiles up top. But those are all side businesses that have stemmed from football, their main service offering or product. Is there an overarching vision and goal that they're reaching for? Or are they just hiring people every 2 or 3 years and hoping that they can work some magic? I doubt anybody watching this video knows the actual answers to those questions, myself included. I obviously don't know, right? Ed Woodward steps down as CEO and was replaced by Richard Arnold earlier this year, and John Murtaugh has been acting as the director of football since early 2021. Their ultimate success in their roles is yet to be seen, I guess. So before we wrap this one up, let's quickly get back to the players. When United recently lost to Brentford, I was out at the time, so I didn't watch them play. But to make this video, I went back and subjected myself to it. The opening half alone was unbelievable. Outrun and toothless. If I didn't know any better, I wouldn't be able to tell which of these two clubs has only spent 2 years in the top flight in 75 years. Listen, don't get me wrong. As I've already said, Manchester United has some serious talent. I've said this a few times, but if this were Chelsea, City, or Liverpool, for example, all of the players on screen would have been axed and replaced at varying points due to crazy dips in form. The required level and attitude just isn't there. If I tell you, for example, that I consider one of the best jobs of my career was to finish second with Man United in the Premier League, you will say, this guy is crazy. He won 25 titles and he is saying that a second position was one of his best achievements. I keep saying this because people don't know what is going on behind the scenes. This quote by Mourinho is over 3 years old and as relevant as ever. You don't even need glasses to see and analyze where the problems are. Now it's about how do we solve them. It's not enough to do some minor amendments, cosmetic things. In medicine, you would say that this is an operation of the open heart. This quote by Rangnick, only a few months old at the time of making this video, was said in the exact same vein. And while all this has been going down, there has been little to no indication that the Glazers are the least bit interested in fixing the issues. Radio silence. It's too early to judge Erik ten Hag, so I won't comment on him. But based on the past 9 years over at United, the hard truth is that things more than likely will remain this way for a very, very long time. And more than that, it'll probably get worse before it gets better. And there we have it. I'm pretty sure this video will run on the longer side, and there is still so much and so many events that I couldn't possibly coherently cover in one video alone. I was actually in the middle of writing a much more pleasant and fun video on an absolute legend of the game when all this went down, so you can expect that one up soon. But this is also nuts that I kinda had to cover it. Anyway, feel free to let me know what you think in the comments below, and feel free to follow me on the socials if you want. That is all from me today. Really hope you enjoyed. Hope you're all having a good day. Cheers, and I'll catch you in the next one.